Okay, so in the last video we learned about passive and active voice and how to avoid that pitfall when you're writing a maths DI, and we also talked about subject pronouns and how to get rid of those in your writing. What we're going to focus on today is nominalisation, and you're going to say nominalise what? So nominalisation is a process we use to turn adjectives and verbs into nouns, and they allow us to write in more complex ways so that our writing is more academic and sounds more written rather than more spoken, which is one of the pitfalls that students fall into when they're writing a formal report for science and maths in particular. So first of all, we need to know some terminology. So we need to know what a noun is and what a verb is and what an adjective is, because if you don't understand those three things, it makes it really hard to manipulate the language. So, to recap, a noun is a person, a place, a thing, an object of some kind. A verb is an action, or it could be a being or having word. And an adjective is a describing word, and it's used to describe nouns. So, for example, a verb that we might use in maths is calculate. You need to calculate the answer. Or an adjective, so we might be looking at how wide an object is, so describing what an object is like. With nominalisation, what we're actually doing is we're turning these words into nouns, and the reason we turn them into nouns is so that we can put adjectives around them and make our writing more interesting, and it also allows us to talk about abstract concepts in a way that using verbs and adjectives doesn't allow us to do. So if I wanted to turn the verb to calculate into a noun, I need to turn it into a thing. So instead of to calculate, I end up with calculation. Now I can talk about the calculation of a particular thing that I'm trying to work out. Instead of talking about how wide something is, I actually want to talk about its width. So I can talk about the width of an object. If I look at these examples I have on the board behind me, I measured how long the fence was. So I might be doing some kind of calculation of perimeter. When I look at that sentence, the word that's describing the fence is how long it is. So that's an adjective. What I want to do is I want to turn that adjective into a noun. So if I think about that a little bit, I'll soon come up with the answer. So instead of long, I end up with length. And instead of I calculated how much it would cost, what I'm actually calculating is the cost. Okay? If I put that together with what we did last time when we looked at turning things from active voice to passive voice and getting rid of my subject pronouns, I soon realised that I also need to deal with this I, because at the moment having that I there means that these sentences are in the active voice and not in the passive voice. It means that they're personal when we actually want our statements to be impersonal and factual. So from the previous videos you watched, you would know that I measured needs to become passive, and I have to change that measured to what was done, which will make it was measured. And you'll remember also that the object becomes the new subject. So the object in this case is my new nominalisation, which is length. And I'm going to put that at the front of my sentence. So I now end up with a new sentence, which is the length of what? Of the fence was measured. So now I have no subject pronoun in that sentence, which means it is now impersonal and it's no longer active, it's passive. I also have removed my adjective and I've turned that into a noun, which allows me to put it in the subject position of this sentence. So now I've gone from a very spoken sentence, I measured how long the fence was, to a much more written sentence. The length of the fence was measured. If I look at the next one, I calculated how much it would cost. The thing that I'm calculating now is the cost. So my object is going to go into subject position. So I end up with the cost, and I have to now look at my verb. So when I look at my first sentence, I had I measured. Here I have I calculated. I need to turn that into a passive sentence, so I end up with was calculated. So now I can say the cost was calculated. So I've gone from having an adjective to a noun. I have nominalised that adjective to be able to put it in subject position in the sentence. I've done the same thing here. I've got a verb, how much it would cost. I've turned that into a noun. So now I can talk about the cost, and that lets me put that word in subject position. So I end up with the cost was calculated. So as you can see, there are no subject pronouns in either of these sentences. They're both now in the passive voice because of the fact that we have this was in front of the verb in both cases. And we also have much more formal sounding sentences which are more indicative of what you should be using in a Maths DI or even a Science Prac report. In your booklet, you'll find reference to this information on pages 11 and 12. So you can now have a go at some of the activities that are on that page so that we can talk about them in class next lesson. If you need to, watch the video again, otherwise get on with the exercise. Ciao!